and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
And I am Anthony Sear, and welcome to Focus on Liberia, where, as we always say, we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Of course, this is the hour of politics where we talk politics. Today, we will try to be as much analytical as we can be. I have two outstanding gentlemen comfortably seated to help me do that. We have two major issues to analyze and break down. They have political eyes and minds, and they will help me while I navigate the discussion. If you have some popcorn, grab it. Let's talk politics. Liberia must go forward politically as well. And so we are here with this topic, Analysis, Cummings' annual message, and Biney's press conference. That is James Biney, national chairman of now the opposition National Patriotic Party of Liberia. And you know Mr. Cummings is the political leader of the ANC and also the CPP. Joining me to do the analysis is Jimmy Eastman, co-host of Focus on Liberia program On Point, and he's joining us from the nation's capital. Jimmy, it's good to see you. Happy New Year and welcome.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, my brother. And it's good to be here to talk about these hot topics. I look forward to a very revealing conversation here. Thank you.
All right. Joining us also here is the man Momba Kasali from Team Cummings. He's a young leader, youth leader, by the way, in the Alternative National Congress. He's currently visiting the United States from Ross Island. Is that correct?
Yes, Ross Island.
All right. It's good to have you, Momba. Welcome.
Yes, good evening, Anthony. Good evening to Jimmy. Good evening to all our followers. Good morning to the people in Liberia. Here is after 12 a.m. It's good to be here to talk about very important matters relating to where we are as a country and people. It is always a privilege to sit on this platform, specifically with you, Anthony, and all the critical things that are raised here. So, I look forward to a very tough one because I guess you'll be taking a stab at Mr. Cummings' statement today. So that would be the crux of the matter for you. But it's good to be here.
Thank you. And folks, we also want to say thank you for joining us. As we said, two major things we are focusing on today. Mr. Cummings released a statement that is more like an annual message to the nation Liberia, in which he touched on nearly all the sectors in Liberia, from sanitation to the economy, and what he will be doing going forward as he seeks the nation's highest office, the presidency. He said he's going to go to every hamlet in Liberia with his message. Did he say anything new? Did he resonate with the Liberian people? Was he trying to be presidential in the message? We are here to discuss that, and we'll jump to the side of the MPP. So, gentlemen, let me bring you both on the screen here. Let me put myself in the middle so that we can go into the discussion right away. Let's start with Mr. Cummings' message or statement that is more like an annual address to the nation. You listening to it, Mama, let me start with you because that's your side. What is Mr. Cummings trying to accomplish this time with why it's more like an annual message to the Liberian people?
First of all, we all know that 2023 is an election year. What Mr. Cummings tried to establish today was to give us a basic rundown of where we were in 2017 and 5 years later where we are today as we approach the next election. He also tried to present to the Liberian people what he see as the most important things that need to be taken care of immediately,
Mhm.
and he tried to present an alternative for what we have now, and also assure the country that there is hope. He tried to relate that with 2017. He talked about the elections that presented hope for us in 2017. Unfortunately, our country and its people elected a man who failed to live up to the expectations of the population of Liberia. And then he talked about the most horrendous thing he faced since Mr. Weah came to power, and practically underlining the lack of leadership and incompetence of the government. Again, he also stated clearly where he wanted to take Liberia in that message, and where Liberia should be and how Liberians should be living. So, I mean, this is like an overview of the past government, a presentation of his ideas for where Liberia should be and how he wants to make Liberia. So, I mean, today's statement is by far one of the most powerful statements he's released. It is not redundant, as you will probably want to suggest. He said a lot of new things today, things that we've not heard from him before. And he also said some things we've heard before, but not the way he put it today. And the issues that are affecting Liberia, by the way, and the things he talked about in time past have not changed so drastically or so dramatically. So, take for example, he talked about the healthcare delivery system. Our people are still dying
And
because
remember, we'll get to the specifics. I just wanted to hear from you
I'm just
what he was trying to accomplish here, and I think you
yeah,
did
but
that. Hmm.
yes, okay, but let me close on this, right? So you
Hmm.
talk about our healthcare delivery system. He told you where we are, but where we should be. So that's the difference, right? In all of the things he said. But let me stop there, since you still don't want us to go into the details. Then when we're ready, we can take issues one after the other.
Exactly. And Jimmy, you listening to the statement. Uh, can you sense what Mr. Cummings was trying to accomplish? And will you say he has accomplished anything with this statement?
Thank you for the question, Anthony. I've heard Mr. Kessley talk, and he's a very intelligent young man. But what I have noticed has been missing in
Mhm.
the Cummings camp
Mhm.
is political savvy,
Mhm.
not education, not global awareness or global clout, but political savvy. And when you're making a speech, the first thing you do is you identify the audience to whom you're speaking. Because if I'm speaking to an audience of kindergarten children, there are things that I will say that will not resonate with them. So if you do not specifically target an audience, it is likely that a lot of what you say may not hit the point. Now, Mr. Cummings' speech was an analysis of some performance of this administration.
Mhm.
He went into the excessive garbage. He went into some failed promises, and he elaborated on very, very points. But my question to him is, are you speaking to the internet audience in the diaspora who will not be voting? Are you speaking to the intelligentsia that make up a very small portion of the
Well,
voting populace?
Jimmy, I know this is your opening statement, but it said, internet citizen will not be voting. How you know they will not be voting?
Well,
Maybe
in
some that may not
reality,
be voting, but to say that they will not be voting, presupposes that you're saying all of them will not vote. I'm not saying that at all.
not all. I'm
Mhm.
looking at the majority. I'm looking at the availability of the internet. I'm coming from a technical technology background. I look at
Mhm.
the availability of the internet. How many people have internet available, have computers available? They all have phones, but do they have data and all these things? So I'm looking at who follows these programs. Okay, you will find
Are
on
you
the radio.
suggesting this message? Hold on, Mama. Are you suggesting this message deliver will only be on the internet? Are you of the view that it may not hit the radio, or what are you trying to
Very
say?
good. If radio is not carrying these messages,
Mhm.
honestly, I can tell you, a lot of people will not get it. To the majority of people today are still listening to radio in Liberia, and it's essential that the radios relay your message for the
And
large.
Jimmy, if I may, you were talking about something's missing, and you were trying to draw an analogy about if you were speaking to a Kidongari, there are some things you would say that will not resonate. I want to get your point clear there. What are you trying to say? Are you
I'm
suggesting?
saying that
Yeah.
the criticism has been
Mhm.
of the handlers of ABC is that he is not resonating with the common or the grassroots
So
people.
in this particular message, will you say it does not or will not resonate with majority of the people? Who
I,
do you
I,
think this
I do
message was
not think
really
he
crafted
touched.
for?
Very good. Excellent
Mhm,
question. I do not
mhm,
believe he touched on the issues
mhm,
that will encourage people to support him.
mhm.
Or looking at the grassroots, he didn't. His speech was not directed in a way that he would gain traction with them. I think his speech was great for the intelligentsia. I think his speech was great for the internet voters and the diaspora.
Mhm,
But those grassroots who will be turning in the vote,
mhm.
I don't think he spoke directly to them in a way that will resonate with them and
And
give them
finally,
the
Jimmy,
power
before I
support.
get to Momba to come in here, I'm sure he has some disagreement. I want to know this statement that Mr. Cummings has delivered. Will you say a the targeted audience? You are saying the targeted audience here should have been the grassroots, but that is not the case, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my personal opinion.
If is that not the case, so what is missing there? What should
What
he
is
have done
missing?
that he did not do to reach the grassroots that you talk about?
Okay, even though your choice of words,
Mhm,
beside the topic,
mhm,
your very choice of words are different when you're talking to people of a different type of understanding.
mhm,
Okay, you can say to. I'll give the scenario with the kindergartens again. You
mhm,
can say, "When are you going to bed tonight?" And all the children say, "We're going to bed at this time."
mhm.
And you can say, "When will you slumber?" And maybe half of the class would not even be able to understand what you just said. You said the same
Okay.
thing.
All right.
Choice of words,
Mhm,
choice of topic.
mhm.
Those are the things that resonate with people.
All right. Let me come back to Mamba. Mamba, I'm sure you have disagreement there. I think Jimmy main thing is that the message was not pointed for the grassroots, or it was more so kind of exclusive for diasporans and intelligentsia. What's your disagreement?
Let me first start by telling James that one of the reasons Mr. Cummings is in the race is to exactly address his concerns. The fact that we have people that are delineating segments of Liberians and one specific message is targeted at those people, when in fact, the central message here is that the government has failed and the government is failing the Liberian people. Our people are struggling and they are suffering. That is something that needs to be addressed. And that's why Mr. Cummings is in the race. Now, in the first place, the message Mr. Cummings delivered is being played on local radio stations in the country, will be translated in various vernaculars. Mr. Cummings' statement encapsulates the suffering of the people. We don't want people who will run for the presidency simply to intellectualize the suffering of the ordinary people or try to speak only to them because they want their vote. What Mr. Cummings is telling our people, I empathize with your condition. I see where you are today. I know you are suffering just as I am, feeling the pinch of your struggles and your suffering. But there is hope at the end of the tunnel. We can change this thing. This is not how our country would be. We are going to change Liberia. That is what Mr. Cummings presented today.
And
And
Mr.
the ordinary
Kesari,
people are getting it. I'm coming. I'm coming. There's something I must do.
you will. There's something I want to inject there. I will allow you to flow
I don't
here.
want to lost my tongue
Uh,
on this, Anthony.
you
This is
will
the
not
question.
keep your
I
tongue,
really
please.
want to say this.
Jimmy is saying, okay, let me allow you go. Go ahead.
Good. Please. There's something I want to
Mhm,
demystify here today. I need to
mhm.
click. It is our opponents that are carrying the notion that the ordinary people are not connected with Mr. Cummings. That is a diabolical lie. That is something that is meant to drive away voters from Mr. Cummings. The ordinary people are drawn to Mr. Cummings. And Sonny, I have been with Mr. Cummings in all parts of the country. And everywhere we go, I see young boys and girls, little children, even without slippers, running to come and see, oh, that Mr. Cummings there, that Mr. Cummings there. Why are people trying to create this notion that the ordinary people do not connect with Mr. Cummings and his message? That is a plot by our opponents. And we have identified it. We will clarify it. The ordinary people know Mr. Cummings, they recognize him as part of them. This man grew up right there in Point 4. He goes to Point 4, and some of his childhood friends see him and they rush to him. They connect with him. They sit
And
with him.
Mr.
How
Mumba,
can you
this is
not
the
say his
question I
message does
wanted to
not
ask.
resonate with those people? So that clarity need to be made that the
This is
ordinary
the question.
people know and recognize Mr. Cummings.
Yeah, this is a question I wanted to ask. You listen to the message. In your opinion, having listened to that message, do you think the ordinary Liberian citizen who does not have the exposure that you and myself have, who may not have some sufficiency with the English language that you and myself are privileged to have, will listen to that message and get every bit and piece of the message Mr. Cummings delivered? Do you think they will get it if they listen to it?
And Sonny, at this
Yes.
point,
Hmm.
you do not need a rocket scientist to go and tell people that they are hungry and they are not
Hmm.
eating.
Okay.
At this point, you do not need fine words or colloquia to let people know that our children are dying from curable and preventable diseases. At this point, you do not need to remind our people that Joshua does not care about their suffering and their struggling. What the people heard from Mr. Cummings today is hope
But
amidst
the
those
people
struggles
must
they are going
hear
through.
that from
But they
somebody who wants
understand
to
it.
replace Mr. Weah, and that is what Mr. Cummings is doing. But if they are not getting the message in a language that they will understand, don't you see that as something to consider?
So because you're assuming that they are not getting the message, we should sit here and agree that they are not getting the message. They are getting the message. What part of my statement that the message will be translated into various vernaculars in Liberia? It will be playing Lofa, Nimba, Bong, Riverses in all parts of the country. We did not
Mhm.
get. We will play the message in the ghettos. So we will have people to talk to our that's why we have campaigners. Mr. Cummings cannot
Is it
speak. I'm
possible
coming,
for Mr.
Anto.
Cummings himself to release a simple English
But he
message?
released a very simple message. This is not, I mean, look, insofar as we do agree that a
Mhm,
huge number of our citizens are not academically educated,
mhm,
they still understand the language Mr. Cummings spoke. He was not verbose or trying to intellectualize their suffering. He was as pointed as he could be, stating where they are, where they should have been, with all the hopes they had in 2017, and where he's going to take Liberia.
thank you.
That message resonates with the people. We will translate it. Now, Mr. Cummings understand, you should understand, and so is the chief policy driver of where we want to take Liberia. When he released a message like that, it is now incumbent upon me and every other person. And by the way, I need to state here for the record that I'm the son of a hunter. My father from Lofa County. So if you're talking about ordinary people, I don't know what does not make me ordinary. Because I grew right there in Lofa County, all
Mhm.
right behind the house. So look, this message is reaching our people. We will translate it, we will canvas, and if it does not touch them as much as we want to, that is not Mr. Cummings for that should be blamed on us. But Mr. Cummings has played his part.
So
He has sent
you,
out
Mama,
a towering
two
message
things
that
can
will
be right at the same time, right? Hold on. You are
Mhm.
also saying that the message will be translated in the local vernaculars. It will come from somebody like you who is an ordinary man giving your family history. I'd agree with that. But I'm also saying will it also do more good? Will Cummings be seen more by the people, the ordinary people, if he were to speak to their level and say, oh, that is Mr. Cummings, man, don't you think that would be more effective and resonate more with them as compared to Mumba have to translate for Mr. Cummings? That's what I'm asking.
Mr. Cummings speaks to the ordinary people. Let me give you a typical example answer.
Mhm,
In his last message in
mhm.
2022, he referenced a specific statement that is very popular in Liberia. He said, nobody's stupid here. In Kolokwa,
Mhm.
that's the lowest form of speaking anybody can do in Liberia. There is no Liberian child, boy or girl, that does not understand when you say nobody's stupid here. He said that. Now, but you still say, I mean, he's not connecting with the people,
No,
he's not
nobody
speaking their
stupid.
language.
It's just of recent. There are
No, no,
some,
no, no. I'm give you an example of
there are
how he is
some
speaking
coded
to ordinary
languages that
people.
are common. Mhm.
No, I'm
No,
just
but
telling
first,
you
but
how Mr.
let me
Cummings
let me
messages
chime in,
the ordinary
Mr.
people,
Kessely,
and he
Mr. Kessely.
understands the message of the ordinary.
Hold
Yeah.
on, Jimmy, let it towards there. Mhm.
No,
Okay,
he can come on. I'm
All
yeah,
fine
right.
with
Mr.
engaging
Kessely,
with him.
Mr. Kessely.
Yes.
Mhm.
I know the Kessleys from Lufa. We have a high degree of respect for that family. All right,
Mhm.
and what the fact that you are a hunter's son does not mean that you're not highly intelligent and highly educated. That doesn't stop you from being
Academically,
highly
add
intelligent
the
or highly
academic there.
educated. You can be a hunter's son and still be you can still be part of the intelligentsia. And you can even forget how to speak your own native language as we have seen before,
I
how
can
to
speak
speak
Lama
to the
very
people
clearly.
on that level. But let me really show you what I'm talking about. It's not a criticism as such, but it is rather an advice. One time I was running for on the camp, or as a refugee, and they asked us one question. The question was, how many people, how many refugees are on this camp? How many Liberian refugees are on this camp? And two or three people answered before me, several thousand. One said to 10,000, one said 8,000. And they asked me the question. I didn't know the answer to the question, but I told them, as far as I'm concerned, the number of Liberians on this camp is equal to every single Liberian that shows up to that gate and needs help. That the crowd erupted because that is what resonated. It's not that I was speaking numbers, but that is what they wanted to hear. When I'm telling you resonate with the people, are you telling the people something they want to hear? That is what's going to gain you traction. That is what's going to gain you ground. I'm not just saying that what he's saying was right or wrong. I'm saying the end game. You want to win. Are you getting the people on board?
All
You
right,
know?
gentlemen, let's move a little more into the statement. For me, this is particular. Presentation delivery matters. You can choose a style. You want to be presidential, you want to be casual, you want to go local, you want to go political, you want to throw some punches. So let's look at the delivery. Was Mr. Cummings, what was the attempt here? Was he trying to be presidential? Is that what you saw? Let me start with you, Jimmy. Did you see Mr. Cummings trying to be presidential with this statement? There was an annual message, and politically speaking, somebody who has the aspiration for the presidency, annual message are presidential. Did you see a presidential style message delivery here with the clothes he wore and all that? Let's take all that into consideration. For me, I nitpick everything. That's my job. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Mr. Cummings never fails to present himself professionally.
Okay.
Okay. I knew Mr. Cummings from we were all in school together in CW. He's always been very professional, very, very proficient at how he presents himself. He's always been that way. His speech tonight, though it had some political overtures, but it was more corporate because he gave an analysis, he gave an assessment. Politicians, to gain traction with the voting have to be a bit fiery. They have to punch at things that will ignite their support for them. But he was very intellectual. He was very academic. He gave a complete analysis of the failures that he saw.
Mhm.
But again, at the end of the day, did he win some votes with his speech? And that is all I'm looking at. So, as usual, he's professional. You can call it presidential. He's never failed to present himself. He has presented himself to corporate boards, to international organizations. He's done this over and over again. This is second nature
Okay.
to Alex Cummings.
So,
So he'll always be professional when he presents
finally,
himself.
finally, the dress code he was in, for what I saw as more of a presidential, kind of address to the nation. What do you make of it? You wore a blue long sleeve shirt like mine. The button was open almost to the middle of the chest, and he has his hand. He even folded the hands at the bottom. What was that communicating there? Is that where you go presidential? If the intent was to be presidential, Jimmy, finally.
I'm glad you noticed those things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if everybody noticed it. If somebody was listening on the radio, they wouldn't see those things.
Yeah.
I think they're important. Appearance is important.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the greatest magnitude is the content of your speech and your delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And if your delivery is as such that everybody wants to pay keen attention to what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody understands every word of your speech,
Mm-hmm.
every idea you conveyed, that is when you made it successful.
All right.
And that is what I'm looking to see happen in that camp. Honestly, yeah.
Thank you. And Mumba, was he trying to be presidential? Did he accomplish that? Looking at the dress code that he was in, which might be something, somebody might say that is not important, but for some people it might be. And also Jimmy is saying, hey, for a political speech, you were being academic by being analytical, so maybe academic people will relate to that, will like that more than ordinary voter. Is that something that you think it could be a little more punching on the political issues?
Let me start by paraphrasing Dr. Martin Luther King
Okay.
and say that if anybody thinks that the Liberian people will take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism, you must be up for some rude awakening. What Mr. Cummings displayed in his dress code today, with his sleeves rolled and his shirt half open,
Mm-hmm.
is that come sun, come rain, come whatever, my
Mm-hmm.
sleeves are rolled for this battle. That was a clear message to
Mm-hmm.
Joshua,
Mm-hmm.
to other opponents, that he is ready for this fight. It is no longer about wearing nice suits. It's no longer about just sitting and looking comfortable. It is
Mm-hmm.
about getting out there. That is the message he tried to present today to the ordinary people. He presented that message dressed as he was, but again spoke exactly to the things he's going to be targeting,
Mm-hmm.
spoke exactly to the things he wants to address as president of Liberia. So, I mean, there is no better way he could have presented himself. That was a new man. Now, you listen to Mr. Eastman saying, oh, Mr. Cummings is academic and intellectual. But you saw, you and Stu clearly identify his shared role.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the man willing to get in the mud right now to make sure he gets his country rescued. That is the message we try to send today. And the fact that people are picking at the way Mr. Cummings presented his ideas clearly speaks to the many challenges we still have in Liberia. Because look, the kinds of leaders we have elected in time past have never clearly been able to articulate where they see Liberia, where they want to take Liberia. Joshua did not do it. A lot of other leaders did not do it. What they do normally is to massage the suffering of the people and appear to be in empathy with the people, while in actions they have no idea of where they want to take the country. And what the ordinary people are going to see today from the message Mr. Cummings delivered is that he knows where Liberia is better than any other person. that is running among the top 3 candidates for the Liberian presidency. And that where he see Liberia, he understands what the people are going through. But when he
And
gets the opportunity to lead Liberia, he is
mhm.
going to deliver differently, and
and
it's not going to be
and
business as
Monba,
usual. That is what Mr. Cummings did today, and
and
we should be
Monba, if I
excited.
may here quickly, what you are
Mhm.
saying is leaders in the past, let's take for example, you cited Joshua, did not present a message, his plan to the Liberian people. He just, talk about sentimental issues, and and the people cheer. And here we are today. Other leaders in the past might have done that. That's why he's saying. But Mr. Cummings is different. He said, well, here are the issues. This is where we are. And given where we are, this is what I want to do. And that is completely different. And that might be the reason, maybe some people are saying that, well, this is not the kind of message you should be preaching. Now, as true as, your
What message
analysis,
will you recommend a
or
president
it
present?
seems to
The
be, let me,
message
let me,
of
let
what
me
he's going
let
to do
my
for the
thought here.
country?
Yeah, as it seems to be, given this time, because what you are saying also presupposes that what has worked for us in the past is somebody just yelling, you know, riling the crowd kind of speeches, and even though those speeches are empty, but they rally the crowd and they get the votes and they win. So should Mr. Cummings use the different approach? And now there's this general exception that Mr. Cummings is still behind the other two. Should he be using an approach that have never worked?
No, Jimmy. Now, let me tell you this. There was a period where Mr. Cummings wrote an open letter to the president.
Mhm,
That aroused the curiosity of the entire government of Liberia. The
mhm,
president had to write a response.
mhm,
Now, let me ask you a question. If that letter did not strike the president in a lot of places, why did he
mhm.
see the necessity of responding to Mr. Cummings' letter, open letter? The fact here is that this government sees that the message Mr. Cummings is delivering is resonating with the people. Now, you do your own survey in Liberia, you will be able to come to a conclusion very easily. Ask Liberians who they will be voting for first. When they make their first choice, ask them who will be their second choice. I mean, if you ask citizens, their second choice, if they will not vote Joshua, they will vote Mr. Cummings. Ask the people from the other political parties, if they do not vote for their political leaders, they will vote for Mr. Cummings. There is a general agreement in Liberia amongst all Liberians that Alexander Cummings is actually the kind of leader that we need for our country and to deliver the goods that we've been wanting since 1847. What people are trying to send
And
out
what,
to the
what kind of
ordinary
general
people, this is
agreement you're
what
talking
coming.
about? How did you arrive? What measurement are you using to say Liberians in their
I want you
majority
to
have
conduct your
agreed?
own pool. I want you to conduct your own pool of if someone is not voting for Mr. Cummings, say who will you vote for if you don't vote for if you're not voting for say Joshua or the other candidates, who will you
Mhm.
vote for? Generally, they will tell you Alexander Cummings. Why? Because I think that man really know what to do as president. That is something that is clear in Liberia. But the point here
So that,
is,
that means that Mr. They are not ready for Cummings now, right?
no. I said people that are not voting for Mr. Cummings as first choice. I did
Mhm.
not say people that are voting for Mr. Cummings as first choice. There are people that are voting for Mr. Cummings as first choice, and they have second choice, second or third choices, including Mr. Ismail. If he was voting in Liberia today, he will have a first choice and someone he will lean to if that first choice was not available. And that is what I was trying to point out to you, Ansu. So,
Mhm.
Sonia, I mean, sorry,
Yeah, you can
but
also call me Ansu.
again,
It's okay. Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
okay.
So,
The point
Mhm.
here is,
Yeah, please go ahead.
do not try to establish the thought that um the ordinary people are not connecting with Mr. Cummings. That is not true. That is a political ploy by our enemies or our
All right.
opponents. Sorry. That is a political message by our opponents because they use that to deflect the swelling support Mr. Cummings is receiving. Now, how can you say the man is not resonating with the ordinary people when he came to Liberia just in 1 year in 2017? He was able to accumulate over 100,000 votes.
All
We
right.
have
Thank
been
you.
able to come in to
Mhm.
get more people, newer members to the CPP and to the ANC because of the message Mr. Cummings is delivering.
Mhm.
Every day, people come to the ANC headquarters, for example, they say, "Oh, we really like the thing Mr. Cummings saying, and let them know what he want to do when he president of Liberia." Now, but because our
quickly.
opponents don't
Mhm.
want to recognize that strength, they want to scare away people. They make these underpinning statements or try to make these statements to make people feel like, oh, okay, nobody won't go to the next day. Everywhere. But that's not
Mumba,
true.
thank
The
you.
ordinary
There you
people
go.
are coming and gravitating to Mr. Cummings' message.
Mumba, thank you.
May,
That's
may
your
I
talking
comment
point,
before
and that
we
is
go
enough.
to the next thing, Anthony?
Yeah, Jimmy, be quick. I want us
You
to go
know,
to the substance now.
Mr. Kessler, I'm hearing what you're saying, that Mr. McCummings has made has gained some ground, and I give him that in a very short period. But we're talking about the next level now. You see, you can't. I noticed one thing about in Liberia, that we are satisfied with a minimum accomplishment. You can't, if you want to hit, if you want to go to the World Cup, if you want to become a president, you can't be satisfied with small gains. You have to go all the way. And because of that, yes, he's made some ground, but now we're on the next level. He wants to win. What does he need to do now to gain even more support
Thank you.
and recognition? If you look at, let's,
Answer that.
you're a student, as we all are, and a lot of times when you want to know how to do things, you look at past performances, you look at past records, you look at different examples. You mentioned Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, the way he wrote speech are unparalleled in history. So if you want to learn how to write an impactful speech, you learn from Martin Luther King, how he picturesque, how he captivated his audience by using certain type of words. So let's look at an example of somebody typically in the arena today. Look at Darius Dillon, who beat the CDC twice. What was his style? What did he employ in his arsenal that gained him so much popularity, even with seditions?
You
Okay,
mean,
what did he employ?
Jimmy, that is a whole new discussion, and I say that to you. Darius
You may ask
Dillon,
the question and let
yes,
me answer as well.
he has a way that he spoke that resonated with the people at the time, but he has an enormous political support from the CPP, and that was impactful also. So it was
I
not only
agree.
because of the way he spoke. Gentlemen, because of time, let's go to the substance of the speech here, of the
Okay.
statement. You know, in Mr. Cummings' statement, he brought up the economy. He talked about how our neighbors are doing better than us. All right, even though we are in the same regions, you know, try to show that if our economy was better managed by our current government, we would have either been in a better shape, as our, neighbors are. And then he talked about the issue of sanitation. And in this particular statement, they incorporated, images. They show the trash at West Point, dump sites in streets in Monrovia, and Mr. Cummings in the message also tried to connect himself to the Liberian people. They show a picture of him when he was in grade school, and then he came to corporate America, how he started in Nigeria. And he said in the statement that, look, when I started there as head of Coca-Cola Africa in Nigeria, there were expatriates. Most of them was foreigners, but before I could leave, most Africans took over. And because of what I did, I was promoted as chief, executive officer for Coca-Cola Global. And while I was there, the company did well financially. And then he also came to the issue. So the experience he had, and then he went after people who have been in government. Said, look, these people have been in government. What kind of good experiences do they have? Paraphrasing here. If the government experience has been good enough for us, we would have been in a much better place. And I think he was trying to make the case that, well, we tried the government experience people. Yeah, we are still complaining. So let's try me, the corporate guy. And so also on the issue of, well, people say you're not Liberian enough. Say, well, when I came here, I work here in Liberia. It was after the war I left this place. I'm think the cool he said. I left this place and came back. And I'm still here trying to really tell Liberian people, look, I am just like you. And but when it comes to leadership, my leadership is mechanized. Leadership experiences, they are good. You talk about delivering result. That has always been a focus. And so he's better suited for the presidency of Liberia. And like you said, Jimmy, he did an analysis of where we are, of the record of the government since they've been in power for 5 years now, and that he can make it better. I think that's the message he was trying to get out there. Looking at that substance, did Mr. Cummings accomplish anything new here, anything impactful, anything more forceful, especially with the incorporation of videos and all that to support the things that he was saying? I mean, he was saying. Mamba, let's start with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me start. Ansuni, sorry, I keep making that mistake. Let me start by saying here that one thing Mr. Cummings really did establish today is that he knows who he is. He knows where his country that he wants to lead is. He knows where he wants to take the country. Very important. Three key important things. Take, for example, the issue of stating that he has not worked in government. A lot of people and a lot of opponents of the ANC and the CPP see that as a huge reliance to question Mr. Cummings' ability to serve as president of Liberia. And Mr. Cummings clearly tried to take the Liberian people back to who George Weah was a few years ago, who Joel Howard Taylor was a few years ago. And the list goes on and on. George Weah served as senator. Has George Weah become a good president? Certainly not. George Weah is clearly incompetent and careless with the Liberian presidency by all facets of imagination. Mr. Cummings did not only stop there, but he clearly outlined the fact that he has a measurable track record of performance that far outweighs anything someone will suggest as a basis to determine one's leadership outside of government. Because look, it is not about working in government. You can work in government and still not perform when you come as president. You can work outside of government, you come and perform when you become president. The important thing is character, discipline, commitment to the job, and the ability to deliver on timetables. Those are characters we have never had in the Liberian presidency. We have not seen a Liberian president who will deliver on timetables. Often, Liberian governments now and in the past, what they do is pretend as if they want to do something, delay. By the time we're going to election, they do things haphazardly and they try to play on the intelligence of the ordinary people. Mr. Cummings clearly try to dissuade the minds of our people from such behavior of such pattern. And that's very important. And another thing I must state here, and so that Mr. Cummings did very well today, was the fact that he talked about the economy. Where our economy is very bad. George Weah took our economy when it was much better. He tried to talk about the GDP. When George Weah came to president, the GDP per capita was around 700 plus. Today it has dropped to $600. Now, that is coupled with the increase in price of basic commodities, up to and including the Liberian staple food. We're paying way more for the rice today than we're paying in 12 years when Madam Salif was president of Liberia. That is because of mismanagement and the lack of ability to change things around. When Liberians went to the elections in 2017, they had hope that at the time they believed they were suffering, but this man or the next president should change that condition. What Mr. Cummings did
Mamba, I know you in flight, but on the
happening.
rice issue though, Mamba, on the rice issue, we all know also that the price of rice in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Africa, the price there being a little higher than Liberia. Liberia has been doing a little better with the price of rice, right? And so to use that as a yardstick, you think it will fly in Liberia when we're talking about the fats? Maybe we're talking
Yes.
about the sentiment because our staple food we attach to
No,
it.
no.
You
The
know, it
number
will
is
resonate with people. But looking at the numbers or the process quickly.
answering. When
Mhm.
you are elected as president, one of your fundamental responsibilities is to make sure you give your citizenry much needed relief and give them a condition where they can earn better livelihoods and take care of themselves. You do not go around the sub-region looking for people that are suffering to try to compare the suffering of the people with their people to determine whether their people are struggling more than your people. That is not why you are elected as president. You are elected to change the conditions of the people for the better. Joshua has been president for 5 years. What stopped Joshua from ensuring that we have some level of mechanized farming in Liberia to produce the Liberian staple food? Nothing, except for the fact that Joshua clearly did not have a roadmap about investing in agriculture and ensuring that we are food sufficient. Okay, you are talking about Sierra Leone. Let's talk about countries that are exporting rice, for example. Why aren't we exporting rice? Look, the fact that Sierra Leone, Guinea, or Ivory Coast may have higher prices of rice and other basic commodities presents an opportunity that we should be tapping from today. If Georgia had invested in the right places, by now we should be exporting rice to Sierra Leone and other countries to make ends meet for our people, and besides making ends meet, to develop our country and make our people live better. But the government failed to do that. So uncertainly, it is not something to be proud of to say, oh, because you're importing rice and it's the same thing, or people in the south region are paying more. No, you were elected for 5 years. You should have done better.
Thank you.
Let me allow me to chime in.
Yeah, Jimmy, on the substance of the speech.
Yeah, and because actually economics was one of my first love, but that was more than 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But we studied at the contribution of agriculture to our economy as essential as it is. We have performed terribly in this sector. In other words, the contribution to GDP, the agricultural contribution to GDP has always been lagging. We have 70% of the labor force involving agriculture in some way or another, subsistence farming or whatever they're doing, and it only contributes about 10% to the GDP. This failure that you mentioned, Mr. Kessley, this has been a routine, traditional failure over the years where people have by far more time to address this issue. This issue is not what. Let's look at the steps that President Weah did take. As much as you were trying to disparage him just now, he appointed Jeannie Cooper, who is a profound agricultural producer in the country. She's very successful, one of the most successful. This is somebody who worked with the UN. She knows how to program. She knows how to plan programs. She's internationally accredited.
And Jimmy, how is she doing, by the way?
This is what according to Mr. Kessley, we do not see success. That's what Mr. Kessley is trying to tell us here.
But Mr. Bestman, the fundamental question.
Eastman. No, I want Jimmy to answer my question. This is somebody
he said something that I just want to ask
accomplished in terms of production.
I'm trying to say, she has been performing some rudimentary things. I think that the jury is still out on her performance. But what I'm trying to say, the president doesn't himself go out and do the agriculture. He appoints a professional. He appoints somebody capable. This is what the president has to do. He cannot do everything. He has to deal with healthcare. He has to do with the commerce. He has to deal with several. So he appoints a proficient person.
Does the president have a farm, Jimmy? Does the president have a farm in Liberia?
Jimmy,
Jimmy, do you know if President Weah has a farm in Liberia?
I haven't heard specifically of his farm.
Mr. Kessley, does Cummings have a farm in Liberia that is producing
Cummings
anything?
has a farm in Liberia. You saw we posted photos of Mr. Cummings on his farm. Besides that, he's investing in a lot of farms in Liberia. He's investing in a lot of farmers, by the way, thousands of dollars annually for people to produce. But look, I wanted to go back to what Mr. Eastman said. The fact here is you should not give Joshua a holiday because he's not the agriculture minister. No, the president of Liberia is the chief architect of our policy. And you know that.
I told you over the years we have been failing. I told you we have been failing. Tubman, who made the most advances in this direction, Tubman was failing terribly. He had Firestone running the whole agriculture in our country. Tubman, who tried to reverse it. All of the past people have been failing.
So,
This
so
is
That's
to
not
you,
the
a
what is
new
only
your
thing.
fact.
what is your point here? So we shouldn't
My
hold we are
point to me,
accountable
you
because
expect
we have
someone,
failures in the
so,
past.
it's not going to be easy to turn it around. Just like corruption, if I may. Where when
Are
Ellen
gains
Johnson,
being made, Jimmy? Are
so
gains
Ibrahim,
being
that's
made
why
in that sector
that's
by the
why
administration
that's why I'm
overall?
trying to tell you there are things that have been, there are some rudimentary things that have been put in place today.
Mhm,
It takes
I'm
time.
finished. I'm
mhm.
finished. That is
Yeah.
why that
Mhm.
is why we are telling the Liberian people Georgia has failed to address agriculture. President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf failed to address agriculture. Charles Taylor failed to address agriculture. Samuel Kando failed to address agriculture. Uh, William Tarbell tried, but he did not succeed at addressing agriculture. Tubman certainly failed to address agriculture. Let's give Mr. Cummings the opportunity to come and address agriculture. Even the former vice president tried and failed to address agriculture. We all do agree that agriculture remains our most viable frontier to bringing about much needed economic relief to our
And
people.
so
Why the
so
president can pay lip
the
service to
question
agriculture?
becomes if
Why?
all of our leaders, as you are saying, more than fail when it comes to agriculture, Cummings is a Liberian just as those other leaders and some are, right? What can we look to now to say, well, Cummings is going to succeed? You know, he will not fail. Even though others fail, he will not. What can we look
Let
to
me
in that sector?
let me
Hmm.
tell you. Let me give you a typical example first of
Mhm,
how Mr. Cummings is thinking differently and acting differently. So he talks about in education. He talks about STEM. So that's science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And he opens a STEM school in Liberia, investing in our children's technological skills, engineering skills, science skills, and mathematics skills. Now, talk about me, for example, technology. The fact here is, Mr. Cummings has stated, let's take 10,000, or say, let me reduce the number, 100 Liberian students, send them to China for 3 months to get training. What we're lacking here and so that people fail to recognize is that we have people that are educated, but we don't have skilled labor. There is no skilled labor in Liberia. We need to address that fundamentally, particularly talking about agriculture. If we don't have the people with the right sets of skill, there is no way we can address agriculture just from the top. So you send 100 Liberian students to China. Mr. Cummings has said it times a global number, but maybe I'm trying to be as simplistic as possible. Send
Yeah.
100
So
Liberian students to China. I'm coming. Send 100
mhm,
Liberian students to China. Train them into mechanized farming. Talk to
mhm.
the Chinese government. Say, look, come to Liberia. We are going to invest $10 million into the agriculture sector. Bring your equipment. Okay, we will pay you back, say $1 million every year, whatever the figure is.
Well,
That you
Mr.
can
Kesali,
open. I'm coming. I'm coming as
it's so easy to say
yes.
it, and anybody can say that. I want us to talk about something substantive here. Mr. Cummings made an
And what
argument.
you do,
Permit me here, please. Mr. Cummings made an
I'm
argument here that hold on,
not saying
yeah, please. Mr. Cummings made an argument there that look, the government experience or experiences have not helped us. So is Mr. Cummings trying to communicate that most of our experienced government folks who came to government with their government experiences have failed us? Is that the argument he's making here? I just want to get
the
what his
question should come
argument
back to
is.
you.
Mhm.
To you. Look at your performance
Mama, it's
in
more than likely
Liberia.
your Bluetooth is not charged, so it's creating feedback. Actually, your Bluetooth is not charged, so I think it's maybe you should turn it off. Unmute yourself now. That's it.
Is it better now?
Way too
Yeah,
better.
much better.
Sorry, apparently I would
Mhm.
not use it again. So my question I was trying to ask here is, looking at Josh Weah and Joel Howard Taylor's performance, will you conclude that people who serve in government are able to address the issues we have in this country? No.
Then the question I ask is, does it mean that anybody or everybody with government experience will come and fail?
No, that is not what we are suggesting here.
Mhm.
But looking at the track record of people who are serving government, it leaves more wanting.
Mhm.
That people who serve in government have failed to perform. They failed to address the issues they've seen in past governments when it comes
Have
to.
there not been people who served in government before and succeeded?
And so then what we're telling you here is that should not be
Because
the
we can
barometer.
bring the issue of Todd him, right?
No,
He served
what
Todd man for about 19 years, if I'm not mistaken, as vice president. And Liberians agree that he was a progressive president who has some programs going on for us.
I do agree with that too. That Trevor
Mhm.
did extremely well. He tried as hard as possible. And
And even Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, we can disagree with so many things, but she did some things. Some of her experiences were government experiences, right?
For me,
Yeah. So,
all
what
the
is the
other
point
presidents,
of using that as an example of that? Hey, this is an example of how government experiences are bad for us.
you should let me answer the question, then answer.
Go ahead.
But the point here is that George Weah's performance leaves more wanting from people who serve in government.
Don't you think it's
But
more
the
about
idea-
George Weah and Joel Howard Taylor than government experience?
The idea that people should try to serve your period in serving in government as the barometer or the measurement to determine whether you perform or not as president, that is awkward, that is unacceptable, that is not the measurement we should be using to conclude whether someone will be a good leader or a bad leader. Any Liberian with the right skill set, the right mindset, the determination, the discipline, the tenacity, and the fortitude to really deliver on his or her promises can be a better leader, regardless of whether they serve in government or not. But in this instance, looking at Mr. Cummings' performance outside of government, it far outweighs what George Weah or this current group of people who serve in government did while they were in government and what they are doing today while serving in the executive mansion. So let's give Cummings, who has measurable track record of performance over decades, the opportunity to come and deliver as he did in the corporate world. That is what we're telling you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mamba. Thank you so very much. And Jimmy, the thing is that there are Liberians who serve in government before becoming president and led our country. People might not just know the history. One person that comes to mind is President Hillary W. Johnson, right? When you're talking about Hillary, before becoming president, he was assistant secretary to President Benson. That was 1856, and in 1858, he, 1859, he was editor of the Liberian Herald. I'll bring his government. Let me state only his government roles here. In 1865 to 1867, he was Secretary of State under President Daniel B. Warner. And then in 1870, he was Secretary of the Interior under President E.J. Raw. And then in 1872 to 1873, Secretary of State and Secretary of the Interior under President Roberts, Joseph Jikin Roberts' second term. So this man served in government, and then he ended up becoming president, and he performed exceedingly well as president of Liberia. Many of us just don't know the history. So, to use Weah and Joel Howard Taylor, having served in government before becoming president and vice president, and now there's this conclusion, which is debatable though, that they are performing bad, and it's more so because of the bad experiences they have from government. I don't think it's a good argument to make. Maybe we should elevate that. Look, some people have served in government and they came and performed. So let's look for those people. What do you think?
Okay, so here is where what you leverage from past experience in a government portfolio. You learn the workings of the government, how it transacts. Government doesn't transact that they have things going in and things going out. Government is budget and appropriation. They don't have revenue and cost, and they don't have the same dynamics of typical business. So when you performed in certain positions, it helps you prepare for other positions within the government if you have done well. And I had to add that caveat, because if you did not really perform well in your past position, and simply because you've got another position doesn't necessarily mean you would carry any leverage from that last job. So yes, typically speaking, Having prior experience in management or in government, senior positions in government may give you a up hand in the how things are handled. I have seen professionals and do very poorly in government. They come out of corporate America. They've come out of engineering and various disciplines, and then when they get to government, where you have people performing in a different way, the work ethic is different. The way the system is lagging. The system is difficult to work with, so they perform terribly.
And,
So
and
when
even
you're
on the flip
looking
side to
at
that, right? On the flip side,
yeah,
can we also, because Mr. Cummings is making the argument that, look, given my experience here from the corporate background and the fact that I have succeeded, I've delivered results in my private sector, experience as a manager, I think I'm the best guy here because they has proven to work for me in my case. Can we look at or point to people who serve in private sector, came to government and succeeded because the company is saying that I will succeed because I succeeded in the private sector? Are there people who succeeded in the private sector, came to government and succeeded at all costs because they succeeded in private sector, or also failed?
No, and so
well, I mean, Mr.
Let
Kessler,
Jimmy answer the question.
let me just land briefly before you come in, Mr. Kessler.
Mhm.
There is there was a study, a Harvard study some years
Mhm.
ago,
Mhm.
and in this study they show how corporate managers will do well in government positions because they bring with them a level of efficiency
Mhm.
that was not apparent in the regular government
Public sector.
public sector.
Mhm.
Because in business you have to be proficient or you will go under. So they come with that sense of proficiency to employ policies and trends that will ensure that they are proficient.
Mhm.
Okay, because the profits are hard. Whereas government, you can fail and still not appear not doing your job. Whereas a corporation, if they fail, they will go under. So their studies show that there is something that you can leverage from corporate.
Yeah, I get
Um,
that, Jimmy. That's the
you can.
personal or individual accountability side
Mhm.
that will translate into the overall government. Because if I'm
Yeah,
effective, you are effective, the
that's right.
institution work for automatically become effective. I get
Mhm.
that. But here's the thing, though. You look at history a little bit. There's a guy who was elected as president of Madagascar. The guy name is known, Mark Ravalomanana. He was a business guy who took over from Didi Rashiraka. And the people of Madagascar, they were excited about this business guy. In no time, Madagascar went into chaos. And the people were trusted for the business experience at the time. And, so I'm saying that to say there are instances somebody come from the corporate world, come to the public sector, and will do well. And there are examples too that somebody come with private sector experience, come to the public sector, and they don't do too well. So it's more about the individual and not necessarily because of the experiences they have.
Agreed. Because but even the way it works in government, you can't just fire people. In the corporate world, the person is not performing, you're gone. In the business world, you're not doing what you need to do, you're gone. It's a whole different dynamic in government,
No,
and
in
so
the
it
government
brings
sector, you can
the
fire people. The president
dynamics.
has the right to fire anybody he has appointed. If
I'm
your
talking about the
ministry is not
ordinary.
performing,
I'm,
the
I'm looking
president
at
can
the
fire this person.
I'm looking at the ordinary workers, the
Mhm.
everyday civil servant. That's
We
who
have
I'm looking at.
suspension. We have suspension. We have training. There are so many ways you can correct people. You don't
But when you
necessarily have
have
to
a
fire them.
culture,
Mhm.
you if you have a culture of
Mhm.
lack of performance. For instance, do we calculate how much work is done by
And
our
Jimmy, I
workforce?
get the complacency you're talking about. It is
Yeah.
with us. It's that is why leadership is so key in our country. If you are a director for, say, a APRC, and you have everybody being sluggish on the job, Jimmy, exert the proficiencies that is needed for APRC to succeed. If everybody will hate you, tell them why you're doing it. It's not because you hate them. It's because you want the institution to succeed. And maybe there's this time that people say, well, I'm being looked at ugly. Everybody is just slothful and I'm just trying to show that I care. Well, let me just give in. That give-in mentality will not take us anywhere. Mr. Kessley, your final take on this one so we can go to the MPP.
I mean, okay. So, Anthony, what I wanted to state here for the record is that
Right.
we are not asking you or the Liberian people to simply say people who serve in government have not performed, so take anybody from the business community or who comes with different sets of experiences. No, what we are telling you here is that the people who are currently in government or serving in the executive branch of our government have failed to deliver, even though they came from the background of serving in government for long periods of time. And they do not have what it takes to change Liberia. But a Liberian citizen who has the right sets of skills, the right experience, the discipline to change the condition of our people, and who has a measurable track record of performing and being measured. I underline measurable, because this is not just something to say, oh, he was successful. No, it is measurable. It is something that you and Sony and anybody can go and access today and see whether he performed or he did not perform, right? Yes. And based on that success he cool in the corporate world, if you give him the Liberian presidency, he's coming with similar skill sets, similar experience, similar target, and he will translate it into government to succeed where other governments and this current one is failing. That is exactly what we're telling the people. Mr. Cummings has what it takes to deliver the change we want in Liberia.
That is a fair argument, and I will take that. At this time, folks, we will take a short break. When we come back, Vice President Joel Howard Taylor has been in a political fight with the known chairperson of the MPP, that is James Biney. The matter went to court. The Supreme Court ruled that the current Vice President Joel Howard Taylor has been acting unconstitutionally. She did lose the battle to James Biney. It's a political capital gun. We will see. Is it a good example when it comes to this woman is being accused of indicting herself as stand-up bearer of the MPP in violation of the Constitution. The Constitution calls for 2 terms, and she has made it 3. Really? We'll be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
And I am Anthony Sie, and we are back with you. The next issue we want to discuss is the MPP. Let us roll in this clip before we get to it.
Delegates were in the hall conducting the business of the convention. Madam Joel Howard Taylor, who never entered the convention hall, assembled a disorderly crowd in gross disregard to the ruling of the Supreme Court in the yard of the Pinsville Town Hall. She inducted herself as stand-up bearer for a 3rd term and pronounced Councillor Stanley McLean as her new chairman and Partisan Maurice P. as her Secretary General. In response to her action, Chief Allen, Chairman Emeritus of the party, issued a public condemnation of Madam Taylor's action and termed it unconstitutional. Additionally, the Governing Council of the Coalition for Democratic Change released a statement affirming the Biney's leadership and rejecting Stanley McLean.
Folks, there you have it. Joel Howard Taylor took a crowd at the Monrovia, Pinsville City Hall, where she inducted herself by giving herself a 3rd term in violation of the Constitution of the MPP. The matter went to court. There has been two factions within the MPP, and now Joy Howard Taylor lost that legal battle. She has acted unconstitutionally according to the Supreme Court of Liberia. What has Joy Howard Taylor been up to here? Mama Koseli, you are the political man. What is the woman fear? Why does she have to be the standard bearer of the NPP? Is that the only way Joshua maintain her, as the vice standard bearer for the Coalition for Democratic Change comes 2023? What is her goal here? I'm confused.
Okay, the whole NPP debacle is quite interesting. The Supreme Court clearly has stated where the law stands when it comes to the issues within the NPP. Now, Madam Joy Howard Taylor and the CDC are placed in a very peculiar position. If she is not standard bearer of the NPP, the NPP may protest if she is chosen as a vice presidential candidate again for President George Weah going to the 2023 election. So she is fighting for her political life as we speak. That is not a battle that will end anytime soon. Also understand that when she came to power, she did not live up to some of the commitments she made to most of these NPP stalls. I know she made attempts to changing the constitution to allow her a constitutional third term that was rejected by other partisans of the NPP. The fact that the vice president is still trying to illegally impose herself on the NPP speaks volume about, again, her bossman. This goes back to Joshua or the entire government, because oftentimes these people flagrantly disregard the rule of law insofar as it pleases them or it meets their desires. That is something we've witnessed throughout she and Mr. Weah's presidency. We cannot allow such a thing to continue. The NPP is a legal political party. The Constitution, which is the highest arbiter of justice in the country, has clearly stated that she no longer enjoys the legal right to serve as a standard bearer of the NPP. She should give it up. The CPP platform or agreement, as I'm told, still allows Georgia to decide who will be his running mate. Josh Weah and Joy Howard Taylor together have not treated the folks in the NPP pretty well. And now is the time that those guys want to bite back. So, I mean, look, this is interesting. I will be happy if the NPP guys can elect someone else and put him on the CPP ticket and let Joy Howard sit down. Because, I mean, without Joy Howard Taylor, Joshua would definitely lose the election. So, I mean, there's something that is interesting to me, and it's exciting. We hope it can continue going until we go to the election, and then we can beat Joshua.
So you are praying for a political misfortune in your opponent camp for your political dividend.
I don't have to pray for this, right? Insofar as there will be some benefits we can accrue from this, right? The fact of the matter is we should be law abiding. I mean, the law says 2 terms. You have exhausted your 2 terms. Exactly. If you want a third term, then, I mean, go back to convention. Convince the executives. I mean, the executive committee of the party has the constitutional power to give you another term. That can happen. But you cannot force something down the throat of the people. I mean, that's how, by the way, the CDC is running the country. They're forcing something down our throat. Whether we like it or not, the people won't make sure we suffer. That's why there's corruption everywhere. So
that the question I must ask too, though. Let's look at it politically. It's more than likely she's trying to use that as a leverage. That if she's the standard bearer of MPP, she's bringing something to the table. One might think that minus her being MPP standard bearer, the name Joy Howard Taylor has surpassed in, let's say, Bond County, where she has her political capital. If CDC is to win, CDC might win with her being on the ticket and counting on the people of Bond County. Manion's, being standard bearer of MPP. Is it that not possible?
And so you cannot talk about Joel and remove the NPP and still think that she will have the kind of leverage she currently possesses. Now, people in Bon County specifically, most of them will go behind you because they see that you are with the NPP and they are still loyal to the NPP. The NPP structure.
The NPP is Taylor, and she carries the Taylor name still.
No, to some extent, but understand she's no longer married to Charles Taylor.
Yes, she carries the name, and she does that for a political reason, isn't it?
Because for political convenience, nothing more than that, and because she can still on that name to still keep herself very relevant. But losing the NPP at this time will be striking a huge blow to her political life. That is something.
So, do you see some desperation here because she's taking, unconstitutional
She's
means?
in a desperate condition. She's in a desperate condition, and anybody will be in a desperate condition. Because look, if you lose it, it is possible President Weah will be like, okay, I mean, madam, if you can't maintain your party, then you can't be my running mate. Who wants to lose that kind of position? And
Even
leverage?
though we have to might be contributing to that, but not ensuring that folks from that side to get jobs in the government, right?
No, but the fight here is they neglected folks in the NPP.
Yeah.
They did not live up to the agreement that was struck when the coalition came together. At this point, most of the people that are standing against Mrs. Tiller are very annoyed that she did not fight for them. She forgot about them. Now she needs them. They are not willing to work with her. President Weah cannot even settle this issue because even he did not live up to the agreement of the coalition. So, excuse me, the whole coalition has a very huge battle on her hand. I mean, look, we are sitting. If the guys feel dissatisfied, the ANC is open to them. They can join us, and we will definitely change the country. That's what it's.
All right, Jimmy, let me brief on this one. Your take, and then we'll go to the phone lines.
Okay, there are a few things at play here. Okay, first of all, you can see there's some infighting in the MPP. That is one thing. And I wouldn't agree with Mr. Kessley say because they neglected Madam Taylor neglected the NPP. If you remember, there were struggles even with Madam Taylor when they first got elected, that she was also kind of isolated and ostracized. We heard talks that even some funds, she was not getting some funds for her office. So she too has been through the similar struggle. This is what happens, I guess, in when governments take over. There's certain people who have the powers, and even you can be vice president, but you can still show you that you don't have any power at all. And she's been fighting. So I think it was a bad move to have to go outside the Constitution to change things. Everything has to be done within the rules of the body. But the other thing is, as an incumbent right now, Joe Howard is an incumbent vice president. When they were probably having those rules drawn up for standard bearer for 2 terms, I don't know if they envisaged that the standard bearer would have been in office when her term expired, or his or her term expired. Now, if you're going to have continue with it, there should be no contest, or there should be a clause or something to address this issue, because you have an incumbent in office. And you can't, if the standard bearer is the leader of the political party, okay, does that mean that she doesn't? If you elect a different standard bearer, does that mean that she no longer goes to contest? No, I don't agree with you. You can get a new political leader, but she is still an incumbent vice president and can run. So I believe the way they've handled it, it shows some of the lacking, the things that we need to address to be able to foresee problems before they occur. But it's not on her. What's been happening with the NPP is not Joel Howard's fault. It's not her fault at all. She has very little power. So I don't know why they should put the rest of the blame on her in any way.
You mean she has been one of the leaders there, the most recognized leader there, in the MPP. You mentioned earlier how she was having issues more than isolated by the regime from the very beginning. That is 100% true. She even had interviews crying like a child, that she was not getting money, crying all over the place. And she managed to cement her relationship with President Weah. They are going places, and she's defending the government. She's painting a picture of glory for the government and all that. Her budget has increased from 2 million to 3 million. If she could succeed to do that, whichever way she did it, why couldn't she do that with her party? I'm asking that question because you are saying it is not on her. So if it is not on her, or if she doesn't share that responsibility, who shares the responsibility of where the party is in the coalition?
I think the obligation to the MPP is shared by the CDC, the coalition, and that will need to be addressed. But I don't think the best way to address it is to say that Joe Howard cannot be on the ticket for 2023. That's not the way you address that. They will have to go in caucus and meet and talk about how they can mend their bridges. But it doesn't make any sense to field another candidate unless unless President Weah is dissatisfied with. But it doesn't make any president for any sense for the NPP to field another candidate in this coalition. What is working? Why would you change what is already working? So they need to iron it out.
And Jermaine, the same question I asked Mamba. Let's say Joel Howard Taylor, because there's a court ruling now. She's no longer the standard bearer of the MPFL. Would that threaten, the her chance of being on the ticket with President Weah? I don't want to believe it threatens it at all.
Not at all. It's up to him to choose who he wants, and it's a coalition though. And I'm not sure how the agreement was drawn up that the NPP suggests a candidate, but as an incumbent vice, I don't think it makes any sense to say you will withdraw her and submit a new candidate. So there's a lot of brouhaha and a lot of politicking, but at the end of the day, she will remain, and MPP will make their point made, and there's certain promises will be made, and then we will see things return to business as usual.
And finally, Mamba here, the whole thing here has been about their demands. Joel Howard Taylor had her own demands quietly. Some she was able to put out publicly, and it's more than likely President Weah and the CDC meeting a demand now. She's on board. Because the CDC has the national covers, they can use money as they please. If they should meet all these demands, this issue is over, isn't it? So I don't see any much trouble yet. Don't you see it that way?
I mean, there is some trouble.
Okay.
And even within the Congress of Democratic Change, so the whole coalition, to be honest, is marred by serious troubles. Even people within the LPDP are dissatisfied. The fact here is, Ansoni, when the CDC as a coalition won, bulk of their leaders came from the Congress for Democratic Change. Only very feeder positions or insignificant roles were given to folks from the NPP and the LPDP. So that deep-seated dissatisfaction has been there. People have been crying time and time and again. But now they see a golden opportunity approaching election time. This is the only time they can get Joshua back to the table, and this is the only time they can get what they believe they did not get throughout
So this is resolvable, isn't it?
It will be resolvable if the government, the CDC is willing to spend a lot of money, because look, understand, people want to be taken care of. So it will take a lot to resolve it.
So there's nothing for your side to dance about, isn't it?
No. There is mistrust and distrust within the whole coalition. So that is something we can leverage. That's something we can benefit from.
This trust has been the way they're being treated, and by treatment here, they are not being given, a seat at the table. They don't have
President,
jobs. If those jobs are provided, money pumped in there for them to run campaign. These guys, given the conditions in the country, they will be on board.
and so let me say nobody's stupid here. The guys know for 5 years you were in power, you did not give them what they wanted. Just 2 months of election, now you're willing to give them jobs or whatsoever. I mean, what are they going to change?
So
And
are
at
you
this point,
suggesting that they can take whatever you give them as an effort to,
you can't-
reconcile, and they will still punish you because you punished them for 5 years?
They will not even take promises right now because you are not certain of getting reelected. We are very
I mean,
sure
who,
the CDC.
who else can give them a bigger promise than the CDC, though?
It's not about promise. This is about ensuring that you live up to agreements. The president and the vice president have demonstrated their unwillingness or their inability to live up to political agreements. So there's distrust among their base right now. That is something they cannot easily address. Now we're going to election. The people are very not certain that George Weah can get re-elected because they also know that the government performed miserably. So these people are also scrambling and fighting for their political lives. So this will get interesting as we approach the election. It will get better. It will even reach to physical force. I can assure you of that, Anthony.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We will go to the phone line here, SNN discussion here. And folks following to participate, the phone number is right on the screen. 605-313-6004. The access goes to 791-403. That number is in the Facebook live feed as well. You can use it to call. We will be taking calls here momentarily after this very brief break. We are going to the call.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jack.
I'm Anthony Sier. The man, Elvis Morris, is on the line. Mr. Morris, let us hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Sier, and greetings to Mr. Eastman and Mr.
Castle.
Kessel. I think Mr. Eastman made two great points that I think kind of went under the radar. One of the points being that, for example, when the NPP got into collaboration with the CDC, George Weah became the de facto political leader of the NPP. So Joy Howard Taylor was in essence comatose. She couldn't do anything in terms of, politics as the vice president for the NPP. So like Mr. Eastman rightfully said, that term should have been paused because she was comatose. She was ineffective for those, 6 years or so because she couldn't do anything politically for the NPP. So I think that's why I think her asking for a third term, would be valid because for 6 years she couldn't do anything. And then I want to also go into Mr. Cummings, and sorry to Kesley there, but I think Mr. Eastman also made a great point on this. He's not politically savvy. He has all of these other great attributes, but being a natural politician, he isn't. So I think people like Kesley and other great, and smart, intelligent people that they have around Mr. Cummings has done a dismal job of improving him as a political candidate over the years. It's been almost, 6, maybe 7 years. And they haven't really given, charisma is something that you're born with. But other political, intelligence or even emotional intelligence, Mr. Cummings hasn't shown that in the political sphere. So I think, for me personally, he's still the best candidate to manage our country, but he's just not the best politically savvy, the most savvy political candidate that we have in the country. You can give that to probably George Weah. We can't really talk about Boyka because he's kind of more in, he's not in action, quote unquote, making action. But again, great show tonight. I think overall, great discussion. I think Mr. Eastman had some really good gems, takes that Mr. C, I think you say he had touched on it because he really made some clever points in his analysis. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. That's Mr. Kessler, you want to respond?
I don't know if he says something specific to me that I need to address. Can you hear me? Am I clear now?
You are loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. Because I was struggling to get the audio out, but so I didn't really get the beginning of his
Oh
statement.
yeah. So what he said is Mr. Cummings is not a politically savvy person. He submitted that he believes Mr. Cummings can better manage our country given his managerial experience, but when it comes to politics, he's not savvy, you know. And those of you who are around him have not done a better job to making the kind of politician that will resonate and be attractive to the Liberian people. And that's what he said.
I mean, we do not shy away from the fact that Mr. Cummings is not the natural Liberian politician, so to say. That is a fact. That is not something to fight about. Now, but we also do recognize that Mr. Cummings has the leadership capability to deliver much more than all the other persons that are contesting for the Liberian presidency. Now, our task at this point is to ensure that his message reach the ordinary people way down the line. I mean, the people Mr. Eastman has been advocating for the rest of the day. That is our task. And Mr. Cummings is doing what he should do. He's talking about the issues. He's telling us what he wants to do as president. But we cannot sit here and singularly decide to make our choice based on the fact that the candidate is not politically savvy or he's not speaking as a typical Liberian politician should do. There will come a time where we will find a niche because, I mean, this happens. No political ideology automatically picks up and gets the wind behind it. There is something that has to happen. We are approaching that point where something will happen that will be the catch for us. And that's what if you see how we've been working, that is what we're looking for. And we keep working on it. There are things that have worked for us and things that have not worked. There are places where we believe we are challenged and places we have also done extremely well. Now, we don't try to downplay some of the recommendations people are making and statements people are making. We will identify that niche, and by the time we grab it, we're going to show you that all the ordinary people will be on board and we'll try to move as much as possible. Maybe I need to be speaking more Loma, to my people from Loma County.
Or maybe you should be speaking more colloquial
Yes.
to the ordinary folks.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy, anything you want to say? He's the only caller we have for now.
Yeah, I want to touch on something. I agree that Mr. Cummings has a lot. He brings a lot to the table. But I want to also say this much. I've been in corporate America over 25 years myself, and we feed the executives data, information. We analyze. We do so many researches and reports. So when the executives have this kind of information on their table, they make well-informed decisions. When you go to Liberia to lead that government, that kind of information will not be readily available. We don't collect data the way we collect data. Data is king in the world today, and we got yet to build a database in Liberia, where the whole world has realized that everything should be driven by data, and we don't even have a database. So you're going to be flying blind, as they say in aeronautics. You're going to be flying blind because without data, you're not going to know what to do. So one of the first things I guess he will have to do is organize data feeds that he will be able to make informed decisions. And that will require training and getting people to learn how to report data, collect data, report it, and manipulate it in a way that it turns into information. So there's a lot of work that you cut out to do when you get there, but to change the culture. Yeah.
Let me read some comments, and we don't have more callers. Howard Mensga writes, she's successful but was indicted by the courts and your president having fired her, and corrupt and is surrounded by nepotism. That is Jenny Manning Cooper. Yeah, that's the one. She's the one Howard is talking about. Like, yeah, from River Says Pro, the young brother is holding his ground with the interview. Good job, buddy. Like, yeah, from Houston C. Brooks, yeah, Mr. Eastman, despite the credentials of the agricultural minister, the ministry has performed dismally. Their output has a lot to be desired. There's a comment I saw earlier. Okay, yeah, it is. Hawaii again. So all the BB English Jimmy speaking here, who the message going to? Because Jimmy is trying to critique Mr. Cummings that the words he's using, the way he putting his name for diaspora people, book people, and she's saying, "What do you mean? Are you speaking simple English too far? Because why are you putting out yet? The ordinary folks need to understand that." Let's hear from Darlene here. Darlene writes, "The suffering of Liberians at the hands of their own government is by design. Everything that the governments are doing in order to keep Liberians in abject poverty is deliberate and intentional. It's no mistake." Yeah, from Mr. Brooks here again, Mr. Cassidy, under President Joe region, Liberia was way better in the agricultural sector than she is today. Let me look for more comments here to read. Yeah, from Kima Ross, that is not the argument. We should not limit it to government experience to lead Liberia. Let me see this one from James. James, right? "I supported this man until he started undermining Nyomli because of power. The very day he started putting his hands in the Liberty Party business, it was over between us." Someone is accusing Mr. Cummings of disorganizing something. Like, yeah, from Brooks again. "The We Are administration is completely disorganized. Is a completely disorganized machinery. The executive, legislative, and judicial branches are completely useless. Everybody, both opposition and party in power are completely useless," he writes. He's not missing your words. He must not be feeding some love. But yeah, from River Cesspool, it's a basic guy. "I have the feeling that Louis Brown and McIntosh will flip to MPP. They will leave Cummings. I don't trust them." Sound like a soothsayer, yeah. Let me look for more comments. I want folks to call, man. More comments here. Let me see this one on the MPP. Those MPP fellows just want their cut. It's not that serious. Let's move on to the next topic, and we have moved on. It's time for us to read your comments. Let me see someone here. That is Misko Wewe, right? Councillor Tiawanse Gonglo is the only savior. Are we looking for savior in Liberia, member of Liberia in the race? He is a fearless, selfless, and integrity icon of Liberia who has the tenacity and fortitude to fight for the betterment of Liberia. These are the English you mean talking about. Tenacity, fortitude. Auntie, my in Grand Crew can understand that one. Let us hear from Flomo Livingston. "My brother, you are contradicting yourself. How can you say Mr. Cummings' decisions are troubling, and yet he can be a good leader?" Probably referring to somebody here. And then let's read this last one yet. Mayan Kamara, "Either vote for Cummings or continue suffering. We are telling you now." That person must be in Mr. Cummings' corner. Gentlemen, time is fast spent. I think we were able to do justice to the two issues. I appreciate your analysis in helping our viewers to understand the two topics that we brought to them. And so to close it, we will start with the man, Mr. Momba Kesali. Momba, your closing, please.
Oh, okay. I mean, I just want to clarify first that some data is collected in Liberia, by the way, even at this point. And we are also making decisions based on some data we're collecting. But by the way, I mean, it's not robust as it should be. But when we come to power, by the way, we use data collection to make a lot of determinations and get the people with the right skill sets and the right trainings, to help in that area. But in closing, I want to state here that we are at a very important point in the history of our country. Where we sit as Liberians is beyond just how we feel about somebody. It's beyond whether someone has the political jargons or the political tactics. Where we sit is about the life and the prosperity of our country. At no period in our history, our elections have been so important as they are today. When we go to elections in October, it will be a decision that will determine whether we join the Committee of Nations to forge ahead or we remain backwards and remain suffering. It will be about whether we want to be minimalists or we want to raise our country to a different level. The fight is not going to be easy. There are leaders from everywhere who are presenting their thoughts. But let's look at the man who is telling us exactly what he wants to do. In Liberia, we are Christians, and the Bible says, write your vision, put it on the wall so that people who are coming in will see it. Mr. Cummings is a son of God, a believer. He is writing his vision, implementing that Bible demand that his vision for Liberia, he's writing it, he's presenting it to all of us. This is like the voice of a man in the wilderness crying for the Liberian people. Let us give Alexander Cummings the opportunity. Don't allow people who will be making smart or political speeches and yelling and having charisma. That has not put food on the table of ordinary people. That has never addressed agriculture. That has never given us good roads, electricity, or pipe-borne water. Mr. Cummings know the exact things to do, the right things to do, the right way to go about it, to make sure we have food on the table, that our fathers, our brothers and sisters can make ends meet, they can live better, that we can go to good schools, that we can train our children to compete with the children of people from Ghana and Nigeria and America, that our sons and daughters can stay right in Liberia and work for corporate organizations in every part of the world, that we can have pipe-borne water, we can have electricity, that our mothers, our brothers, and our sisters who are selling down waterside, those who selling in Gorbachev market, all of you, that you can be able to store your goods. You can take them from Lofa and bring it to Monrovia and save it so that you don't lose your goods. That is what Mr. Cummings is presenting. Let us not settle for anything less than that. Let's go for the right man who has the right skill set, the right understanding to do the job for the ordinary people so that we all can be proud, no matter where we are, what we do, we'll be proud to call ourselves Liberians. Alexander Cummings is that person. Thank you very much. And Sonny, it's been a great show. It's been nice meeting you, Mr. Jimmy Eastman, too, on the show here today. Thank you very much.
And Jimmy, before your closing, we have a caller who just joined the line. Let's do justice to that caller. Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks, are you there? Quickly.
Yes. But it has been a very good show. Let me say hi to my brother, Mr. Eastman, and to my young brother, Mr. Cassidy. My only input tonight is that Mr. Cassidy, I appreciate his zeal for Mr. Cummings, and I'm one of those people that believe that Mr. Cummings do have the ability to lead an effective government. However, Liberia have always had highs and lows when it comes into the era of agriculture. So Mr. Cassidy coming out and just writing everybody the path as failing in this sector, and Mr. Cummings being is going to be the only savior. I say no to that because I'm old enough to know a little bit of the Togo regime and a lot about the Dole regime. And that's my only input. I think Mr. Cummings have a lot of challenges between now and October. I hope they come together and we see what the elections going to bring. But my only thing for tonight is under the Dole regime is when the country started to fall apart. And around that time, we still were strong in the field of, in the era of agriculture. But it's been a very good discussion. Mr. Cassidy knows a lot. Mr. Eastman brought a lot, to the show, and I appreciate everybody on the platform tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy?
Thank you.
Okay, Anthony, I like to close like this, and posture as one who wants to appeal to the grassroots. You know, every day we hear they will bring development, but the president, the one man get there, my money getting small. The other man get there, I still can't send my children to school. The other man get there, we're still having the same problem we're having. Every day I hear the same thing. Every day I hear. But what time I will see somebody really make a difference? This 2023 year, I will be listening for the person who would tell me how they would change my life, how they would help me to send my children to school, how they would help me to get a job, how they would help me to do my business, how they would help my daughters and protect my daughters from getting raped and getting hurt every day. That is what I want to hear. And I'll be listening for who would tell me how they would do it. That's how 2023 would be for me.
What a way to close the show from Jimmy. Jimmy has proven that he did not just critique Mr. Cummings on using words that most ordinary people will not understand. He has demonstrated the ability to be able to go local. And, you know, for the ordinary man to understand, maybe Mr. Cummings and Kessley and everybody can copy that and spice it up with the messages that they have been putting out there. Well, folks, this is how we will come to the end of another edition of the Hour of Politics. You know, I'm your guy that brought you this edition. Mr. Cummings is running to be president of Liberia. Like any of us, that's his right. He has a message. He has to find a way to get it to the people and back it with the work needed to convince them to choose him to be our president so that he can have the opportunity to do the things that he's promising that he will do for us. For Joy Howard Taylor, she has brought this grace to us, using unconstitutional means to perpetuate herself in power in violation of a party's constitution. The party constitution calls for 2 terms as tenant bearer. And if she wanted to do so, she should have gone back to the party for them to change the constitution. I mean, talk about changing constitution. In the day and age, we saw what happened in Guinea. Now, that's what brought the coup d'etat in Guinea, because somebody decided to change the constitution to perpetuate themselves in power. Let me break that word down so that they will stick themselves in power. Folks, our leaders must do better. Liberians deserve better, and we must fight for that better. But the choice is with all of us. Who we choose will decide where we go. That is my closing. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Mamba. And tomorrow, the Hour of Politics will be here with Mamba Kessley again and Darlington Collins. He is a friend of the political actor called Heron Pedro Costa. And the topic, Heron Pedro Costa and his recent trip to Liberia. Is he running to be senator? Is he eyeing the vice presidential slot under GMB? What is he up to? He has earned himself a name. He has some foes. I can say that for free. He participated in the CPP, and it is what it is today. And there's a political price that will be paid at the end of the day. So he is a political actor that cannot be dismissed. What is Costa up to? Will he have an influence? What is this trip all about? What is that going to Liberia? People will come to the airport to welcome you when you are like a nobody, say a government official. Even if you're a government official, should it be that way? What is the standard here? Maybe we are in a different dispensation. Mumbai will be here. Darlington Collins will be here. He holds the ground. Mobile does too. It will be juicy. I will be in the middle. I will twist their minds to see if they will be able to maintain their focus. Don't miss that show tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at Focus on Liberia. And the song that says we are all Liberian will close us now. Yes, that song that says we are all Liberians is closing us. And folks, bye-bye. Jimmy, thank you. Mamba, thank you. Bye-bye.
We are Liberians.